Lake Keowee is one of the most sought after lakes in the entire Southeast and probably the United States. It sits about 45 minutes west of one of the South's best cities, Greenville, South Carolina, and it's no surprise that since its inception in the mid-20th century, and especially here in the last couple decades, Lake Keowee has exploded in popularity. In this video, we are going to discuss what lakefront living is like on Lake Keowee, and if you specifically are a person that's looking for a property on the lake, this video is for you. We're going to talk about real estate on the lake, we're going to talk about amenities around the lake, we're going to talk about points of interest on the water, and we're going to talk about conveniences around Lake Keowee also. So if you're a buyer considering buying a property on Lake Keowee, be sure to stick around until the end. I'm going to provide my contact information so that you can reach out and we can help you find a home here in the next several months. As always, my friends, my name is Sawyer, your friend in real estate here in the upstate of South Carolina, and it's our goal with this channel that we are your #1 resource for all the things that you need to know about relocating to Lake Keowee here in the upstate. We aim to provide you with the most relevant, the most practical, and the most reliable information that you will need to know when relocating to Lake Keowee. If you like this information, do me a favor, subscribe to our channel so that you can follow along for future videos. So first up, let's talk about some facts about Lake Keowee. So Lake Keowee is just over 18,000 acres, and it was built by Duke Energy in the late 1960s and early 1970s. As a means to produce electricity for the residents around the area. There happens to be a nuclear power plant in the middle of Lake Keowee. So from an investment standpoint, if you're buying a property on the water of Lake Keowee, you know that your investment that you make here is going to be protected from a water perspective. Because the power plant is here, like I've said, the water levels and water quality is so highly regulated because it's helping cool those reactors. You know that the levels of the water throughout the year are not going to fluctuate that much, and the quality of the water, which Lake Keowee is known for, is going to remain the same. Now, the maximum drawdown for water levels here on the lake are going to be about 10 feet by man. Of course, nature can take more than that, but usually on an annual basis, water levels fluctuate anywhere from 3 to 6 feet. And you compare that to lakes like Lake Hartwell, which is right below Lake Keowee. I mean, that lake can fluctuate 8 to 10 feet at any given point during the year, especially during the winter times. You'll find a lot of docks that are sitting in the mud, and you're just not gonna really find that on Lake Keowee. So while we're on the topic of docks, let's stop and talk about those for a minute. So a dock on Lake Keowee can't have a square footage of over 1,000. A dock also can't be more than 110 feet off the shoreline, and it also can't be more than 1/3 of the width of a cove out into the cove on the water. So next up, let's talk about activities on the water. So there is one main restaurant on the lake that you can drive your boat up to and grab a bite to eat, and that is called Lighthouse Restaurant. It's on the northern part of the southern section of Lake Keowee. Super popular restaurant, super great food, super nice people there every time that I have gone. There's also places like Keowee Falls. So especially during the summertime, Keowee Falls is a big place that boats will come and park at and play music. You'll see kids running around onto the falls, and you'll see a lot of people hanging out in the shallow water, standing around, having a nice drink, and enjoying good company. If you go farther north, almost to the top of the lake, you have Keowee Rock, or Jumping Rock at Lake Keowee. This is a small little island just above the reserve at Lake Keowee where people will go and park their boats out in the cove and swim up to the island and then jump off the rock. That's probably about 10 or 15 feet above the water. I've done it, it's super fun. Definitely recommend if you come and visit the lake for you to take your family out. And especially when you buy a property here, I'm sure that's a place that you'll frequent often. And another thing to note about activities on the lake is Lake Keowee is a big lake. It's a great place for water sports. So you'll have a lot of pontoon boats, a lot of wakeboard boats, a lot of jet skis, and a lot of bass boats for folks who like to fish. But if you're into water sports like wake surfing or wakeboarding or inner tubing or skiing, any of the sorts, Lake Keowee is going to be an awesome place for you to enjoy those things out. So next up, let's talk about real estate here on the lake at Lake Keowee. And before I do that, I want to mention property taxes. So we have two different property tax rates here in South Carolina. It's a 4% and a 6% property tax rate. Don't really pay attention to the percentage, but this is what you need to know. If you live in the house that you're going to buy on Lake Keowee, you're going to pay what's called the owner-occupant 4% tax rate. If this is going to be a vacation home or just say a second home for you and your family, then you're going to pay what's called the 6% tax rate, non-owner-occupant tax rate. So if you buy a house on Lake Keowee and you're going to claim that 4% primary resident tax rate versus that secondary resident 6% tax rate, then your tax bill is going to be about half of what it would be if you own that same house, but it was your secondary residence. So finally, now let's talk about some real estate here on the water at Lake Keowee. So in other videos, we've talked about real estate trends. We've talked about neighborhoods in more depth where we break down our tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 communities. So be sure to watch those other videos if this is something that you're serious about doing, buying a home on Lake Keowee. So far in 2024, there have been 127 sold homes on the water at Lake Keowee for an average of about $1.9 million and an average list price to sales price ratio of 96%. Currently, there's about 54 properties that are on the market that are on the water. So far in 2024, 72 waterfront lots have sold for an average of $580,000. And there are currently 72 waterfront lots on the market for sale. Now, one thing to know about buying a piece of property on the water and building a home is that it will take probably more than a year for that process to come to completion. The design process with a custom home builder is going to take anywhere from 2 to 5 months, and then the construction time itself is going to take at least 11 to say 14 months. All right, so last but not least, let's talk about amenities around the lake. And the first one that comes to mind is going to be Greenville, South Carolina, which is about 45 minutes away and has been named one of the South's best cities by Southern Living. It's been in a number of publications about being one of the best foodie cities, having one of the best art shows, having one of the best festivals throughout the year. So it's a really nice thing that Lake Keowee is what it is. It's private, it's esteemed. It's going to be a really nice way to live your life. However, you have the convenience of coming 45 minutes east to go to Greenville to do your major shopping that you're going to have to do. And that's what you'll hear from residents that live on the lake. Immediately around the lake, like in towns around Seneca or Clemson, you can knock out what you need to on a weekly basis by going to the grocery stores and going to, your small to mid-sized retail stores there. But if you need to do your major shopping, you come into Greenville for a day, going to boutiques or going to Costco or going to Sam's Club. Now, Greenville's not all about shopping. It's also about the experience of being in Greenville. Greenville's got one of the best main streets in all of the country. It's got several great restaurants that people love going to time after time again. And it also has a number of great events throughout the year. So in October, there's Fall for Greenville, which is one of the biggest festivals in the state throughout the year, and certainly Greenville's largest festival. Then you have Artisphere, which is where hundreds of artists from around the world will come and display their art in the springtime. So I say all that to say that it's not like you're in the middle of nowhere when you live on Lake Keowee. You're certainly farther removed from society, and that certainly has its advantages. It's going to be quiet, it's going to be peaceful, and it's going to be very, very serene. However, you're only a 20-minute drive into Seneca or Clemson, you're only a 20-minute drive into Pickens, and you're only about a 45-minute drive, maybe an hour's drive into Greenville. And if you needed to jump on a big flight, you're about 2 hours from Atlanta, and you're about 2.5 hours from Charlotte. So I hope all of that information about lakefront living on Lake Keowee was helpful. And if buying a home on Lake Keowee is something that you're aiming to do before the end of the year or possibly next year, please do me a favor, reach out to me at my cell phone number below or shoot me an email at my email below. I would love to chat with you about what your relocation to Lake Keowee could look like in the coming months. Thanks so much. Well, this video is going to be a about Greenville County, the upstate of South Carolina. Great thing to do and easily in the evening. I'm a local real estate expert here in the area. All time, we're right behind me is a really cool place called Freight Yard.